Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Photography Tips and Tricks, your show for gear, inspiration, advice, anything that you need to take your photography to the next level. My name is RC, and this week we have the man himself, Mr. Scott Kelby, giving us a tip on how to work with remote cameras. You're going to want to take a look at this.
Hi everybody, Scott Kelby here, and I want to show you how easy it is to set up a remote camera. The reason I want to show you is because when I posted on my blog over at scottkelby.com some of my pictures and the remote work I did for the Atlanta Falcons during the playoffs this year, I got so many questions about it. I thought, you know what, I'll just do a quick video and show you exactly what you need and exactly how to set up a simple remote. It's really, really easy, and that's what's so cool about this. You really only need 3 things to set up a floor-mounted remote. Now, if you want to mount remotes to the ceiling of a dome, or if you want to put them in some crazy place, it can get a little more complicated. But what I want to show you is one of my favorite remotes to use, which is a floor-mounted remote. So you put it down really, really low, players look big, people look big, it's wonderful. Now, there's 3 things you need. Number 1, you need a plate. Now, this is the one I'm using now, this is my very favorite. I call it an F plate because it comes from a company called fplate.net. So they sell these little units, they're about 55 bucks. They're metal on one side, well, they're metal on all sides, but they have rubber backing on the back, so if you have to put it on like a basketball court or something, it's not going to scratch anything. They're very, very well made, they're very, very sturdy, but what they really, really do is hold a ball head. So step 1, you need this, you need an F plate. Step 2, you need a ball head. The reason why you want a ball head, it lets you aim your camera anywhere you want. So having a ball head makes a huge, huge difference. And number 3 is you need a couple of pocket wizards. Now, you may already have a ball head. You may already probably have some pocket wizards. Now, you probably have the Pocket Wizard 2 Plus, right? But this is the new Plus 3. This is fantastic. I used these for the first time during the playoffs, and I'm in love with these things. The range is incredible. It's well over 1,000 feet. I think I read someplace it was like 1,600 foot range. So you can put remotes in crazy places. But it also has like 32 different channels, so you don't have to worry about somebody else firing yours. It has a backlit LCD, so all you have to make sure that when you take your pocket wizards that they're on the same channel. So I put both of these on channel 10. This one's on channel 10 and this one's on channel 10. Now, that's pretty much it. The third thing you need, there's one little more piece, and that is this pre-release cable. So this cable attaches right to the front of your camera, right where you'd put a cable release, right? So that little switch on the front where you pop in a cable release, you're going to pop in this cord instead. And then the end of this pops right into the pocket wizard here. Let me just pop it in right there. Okay. Now, once you have that set up, there's also a little thing that I would recommend if you're going to buy one of these cables. And by the way, if you go to Pocket Wizard's website, they have this little finder that tells you what kind of camera do you have and exactly which cable to get. I would recommend, if you're going to be doing a lot of remote work, to get the cable that has the pre-release button on it. What that does is it keeps your camera from going to sleep. You know, after a while, your camera will just kind of go to sleep to save battery. If you have it set up as a remote, you don't want it to go to sleep, and the pre-release cable is what will keep it awake. So make sure you order the one that has a pre-release adjustment. All right, that's pretty much it. Once you've connected the cable to your camera, turn on your camera, make sure your pocket wizard's turned on, then you can actually fire the pocket wizard just by pressing the test button on the other one. So there's one on top of the hot shoe, one in my hand, press the button and it fires the shot. So just anytime you want a shot, you see some action happening, you can fire it. If you switch this thing to high-speed continuous mode, that's when the fun really begins. Now we're going to take this and we're going to mount it on our F plate. So you take the little screw that comes with the F plate, put the ball head on. Might take me a moment to get this. There we go. Get it nice and tight. Put your camera on top and lock it down. And now you can see why the ball head really works great, because once you've got it loosened here, you can put it anywhere you want. I should loosen it up a little bit more. You can aim it anywhere you like. So that's what's kind of nice about this. So I kind of, when the players come running out, I would have it kind of lean back like this with a wide angle lens. I have a 14mm lens on here. And as the players come out, I can fire it with my remote. Now, that looks pretty nice and easy. Now, what if you want to fire multiple cameras or multiple remotes? That's pretty easy to do too. Look, a camera just appeared. All you do is take that same remote, you're going to pop it, turn it around, pop it right on top of your hot shoe, And now when I fire this camera, it fires that camera. So you can just start putting remotes wherever you want. As long as they're on the same channel, it's just going to fire away. Now, for the Atlanta Falcons game, what I did was I had 4 remotes going at one time. I had one remote on one side down low with this 14 millimeter. Then they have an entry unit. So I really set this up for the entry when the players first come on the field. So I had one on the left. Then they have a archway that the players run under. I took a magic arm. They're made by, I think, Manfrotto, but you probably heard of them as a Bogan magic arm. Clamped it up top with the camera. Now the camera was actually mounted upside down. The only way you could get it on this truss was to mount it upside down. And you're thinking, you mean you shot the shots upside down? Yes, I did. If only there was a software program that would let us rotate photographs after the fact. So rotating the photos was not a problem. So we got that set up. We have one on the truss, and then we had another one just like this, aiming the opposite direction. I was able to fire all 3 of those from me being out on the field with a fisheye and firing that way. So once you set up one of these, I think you'll be amazed at how easy it is to do. All you're really needing are those 3 things. The F plate, you're going to need a ball head, you're going to need some pocket wizards, and you're going to need a pre-release cable. And apparently I have a counting problem because I said it's just 3 things. Where it's 4, and if you count 2 pocket wizards, it's 5. But you probably already have some of this stuff like the ball head and the pocket wizards. Now all you need to do is get a pre-release cable. Well, I hope that helps, and I hope it inspires you to go out and try your first remote shot, because once you do it one time, you're going to absolutely love it. Thanks, everybody. I'm Scott Kelby. Hope that helped.
Hi, I'm Joel Grimes, commercial advertising photographer. I'd like to have you check out my new class on beauty, fashion, lighting, and retouching. I've discovered there's nothing more difficult than learning how to light beauty and fashion, and then, of course, the retouching side of things. I'm going to cover all those techniques. I'm Joel Grimes. Come check me out on kelbytraining.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Photography tips and tricks. My name is RC, and we got a question that came in on specific type of lenses, right? Lens selection choices. And it almost always boils down to this. It almost always boils down to the nifty 50, right? This is a 50 millimeter 1.4, right? So that's this one right here that we have right on the B&H website. We have 50 millimeter 1.4, that's one lens, right? You'll almost always hear about the 85 1.4. The 85 1.4, that's it right there. Right? 85 1.4, $11.99. This 50 millimeter is about a couple $100. What is this? $384. The last one that you usually hear about was the 70-200 2.8. Right? 70-200 2.8 on the B&H website is $20.96. So really, $11.99 versus $20.96. That's really kind of the fair comparison between the two. But the portion that came out was just which one are you using for portraits? And the conversation always comes up. Do you use a 50 for a portrait? Do you use a 50 for, do you use an 85 for a portrait? Does everybody calls the 85 1.4 the lens that people use for portraiture? Now, I'm only gonna give you my opinion. My opinion, if it were up to me, I would always just stay on the 70-200 2.8. More often than not, I like to shoot portraits, and whenever I shoot portraits, I shoot my portraits at 200 millimeters at 2.8. I don't necessarily find that the 85 1.4 gives me a specific look that I need. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, well, I'm gonna tell people that the 70-200 is the one that I would use over the 85 1.4. The 85 feels like a little bit of a one-trick pony. It's got great bokeh if you're using it at night. It's got really, really nice blurring, but do you really notice it that much? More often than not, when I shoot with a picture, when I shoot a picture and I show it to people, people are like, oh my God, is that the 85 1.4? And I'm like, psych, it's the 70-200 2.8. But let's just go ahead and just do a comparison. I'll just show you a couple of different pictures and what it is that I don't like about specific lenses and just kind of why I would make a selection. This picture right here, this is the 50 millimeter 1.4. So if you're looking at this, what I want you to pay particular attention to, right? So this is Brandon. Brandon's standing in front of a whole bunch of greenery that we just have across the street. Pay attention to his cheek, the top part of the cheek, right around where the nose is like the middle of the nose, the bottom of the earlobe, right? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to shoot with just a tiny bit of headroom at the top, and I wanted to cut him off right at about the nipple. So you'll see that button that he has at the bottom left of the picture. So I'm trying to cut him off all there. Now, pay attention to this part right here. You see what it looks like there? It, to me, looks a little bit extended. It looks a little bit pulled out. Now, when you move over to the 85, I'm trying to stay within that same range, right? So here, take a look at this, pulled out. That part right there looks almost a little tucked in, right? I'm still trying to stay within the same thing. A little headroom at the top, cut them off at the nipple, cut them off at the button. I should probably say that. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the 200 millimeter. 200 millimeter, that right there looks very, very different. So if I were to go back and I were to just show you this, right? There's my 50, right there. And now, here's the 200, right there. It just looks like it's a little bit more tucked in when you're working with this. So I usually knock out the 50 for any kind of portraiture work because of that. I think that what happens is he looks so much nicer when you're just kind of compressed. Everything tightened a little bit makes people look a lot better. So that begs the question, well, what about the 85? Well, the 85 can do that, and generally when you start getting into 85, 105, 135, 200, those are generally good portrait ranges, but I just find that by comparison, you don't really notice that much of a difference from a bokeh standpoint. If you're looking at the 85-1.4 here, look at the blurriness to the left of the and to the right of the arrows, versus the 70-200 2.8, right? So don't buy the lens for how blurry you can get the background, because more often than not, it's really, really small if you're doing portraiture work in this instance. Now, one of the other things that I think is a bit of a pain is this when you're working with this for the uninitiated. So this is an 85-1.4, right? Now here, this part right here is in focus, but at 1.4, that part right there is out of focus. So if you need to work with a picture where all of a sudden you have to make a good portrait of a person, you've got to get used to this, or you've got to get further back enough to make sure that you can consider that you might throw something out of focus at a really, really shallow space, right? It's really, really small. You can have one eye in focus and the edge of another eye out of focus. So when you're making that selection, I feel a lot of the times people use an 85 and they're like, this is great. And then you start taking a look at the pictures and you're like, wait, what's going on here? Well, that's the 85-1.4. It really does take a little bit of work. So for all of those different reasons, more often than not, the portrait lens that I tend to use is I tend to use a 70-200 2.8. I have 70 if I need it. I can get to 200, which is where I'd rather be for a portrait. And it's a little bit more money, but you're gonna get a lot more for it rather than these things. So the 50 is generally something that I would use for environmental portraiture, right? Environmental portraiture is when the environment has to do as much with the portrait as the subject. In these instances, when you're not that close, then a 50 would make sense. So what you're doing here is you're taking the environment, you're zoomed back out, that's gonna make for a much better picture with the 50. But you don't necessarily wanna shoot that shot this close in. In instances like this, you're just gonna get that distortion. You're better off by going in and making sure that you can get really, really tight for a really, really nice shot. Now, we've got another tip from Miss Dixie Dixon. Dixie is a phenomenal photographer that does fashion and has got some tip for us on how to be able to shoot on high key backgrounds.
Awesome, thanks for having me. So today, here's a quick tip on shooting high key lighting. So basically, when you shoot high key, a lot of photographers will actually overexpose their background by 2 stops, 3 stops, and this will cause lens flare in your image, and it will cause a very, very soft, hazy sort of look, which most people aren't looking for when they shoot high key. So a good way to avoid that is only to overexpose your background by about a half a stop. And I actually shot an entire lookbook the wrong way before and had to do a ton of reshooting because of that. So I learned the hard way, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. And then another quick tip is to, go to your Home Depot, pick up some linoleum floor, and put that down on top of the seamless, and that will allow you to blow out your floor, and so you're not going to get those horrible footprints like you usually get on white seamless. So always keep that in mind when you're shooting high key. Hopefully that will help you out on your next shoot, and thanks so much for having me.
I can't wait to do this again.
Welcome back, everybody, to Kelby TV and Photography Tips and Tricks. My name is RC. Now, we have a couple things that we want to wrap up with to share with you. Now, the first thing that we want to do is we want to show the website to watch. Now, obviously, we just saw a tip from Dixie Dixon, so it would go without saying that she would be the website that we want you to take a look at. Make sure that you go to dixiedixon.biz. Right? You can go to dixiedixon.com and it'll just bring you here. That's fine. But if you want to see some of the work that she's doing, this is a great place for you to do that. She's got great, great images, and she really has fashion down pat. I mean, you can tell. She's just, aside from all of that stuff, she's just a beautiful person to talk to. I actually spent some time with her over at WPPI in Vegas, and I was very, very happy that I did. So make sure that you take a look at her website. She's got wonderful, wonderful work. Now, we have a peach bid deal we want to talk to you about for this week, the peach bid deal. We have the Adobe Masterclass in Photoshop by Barry and X Perello. Now, Kelby TV viewers, you're going to get 40% off of this new release as an ebook. Don't miss out on this. You want to make sure that you enter in the coupon code KelbyTV so that you can get this ebook deal for $16.79. That's over 40% off. Guys, this is going to be a phenomenal opportunity. Barry X is a great guy. This is going to be a great ebook, and you can get it for 40% off. Thank you so much to Peach Bit for that. Now, what do I want you to do? A couple of things I want you to keep in mind. Photoshop World. Photoshop World is coming April 17th through the 19th at the Orange County Convention Center. If you are in this area, make sure you go. Some of the world's best instructors are going to be there teaching you photography and Photoshop, lighting, Lightroom, you name it. This is a great place for you to be. That's where you want to do it. The other thing that I want to talk to you about that we don't talk about a lot is that we actually have live seminars that go out to a whole bunch of different cities. You should go to the kelbytraining.com/live section. There's a bunch of different tours. Joe McNally has a tour. Ben Wilmore has a photographic artistry tour. Scott's got a brand new tour that's going out. It looks like we have dates on Philadelphia on April 3rd, Chicago on April 30th. And I've been on tour with my Adobe Photoshop for Photographers seminar tour. This is a tour that was designed by Scott Kelby. We're going to Houston on March 25th, San Francisco on April 10th. So if you're in any of these areas, make sure you go and you check this out. It's a great, great time for one day. You're going to have an absolute blast. Now, contest time. What are we going to give you guys? One of you guys is going to win a pass for Photoshop World. So this thing that we were just talking about here, this event, you can go for free. Obviously, you got to get there in the hotel, but we'll cover the conference pass, a full conference pass to Photoshop World. The best way for you to do this is just to go to the Kelby TV site, look for photography tips and tricks, and find this episode. Once you get to this episode, scroll all the way down to the bottom, all the way at the very, very bottom. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the episode is 22. So go all the way to the bottom of episode 22, and there you want to go ahead and you want to leave a comment. So scroll, 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 scroll. Leave a name, leave an email. Obviously, if you have a website, I want to see it, it'd be nice. And tell us a comment. Give us an idea of what you want to see. So if there's anything that we can help you with, we'd be more than happy to. But for this week, I think it wraps us up. Next week, we've got Matt Klaskowski and a couple of other things here on Photography Tips and Tricks. Take care.